Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Act for Dummies. Today's episode is a little different, and honestly, I think it's a lot more important. See, we've spent the last few weeks diving deep into the revolutionary FAR overhaul. Yeah, all of it. And we want to give you a candid and honest take. We've got some thoughts, we've got some concerns, and we also have a call to action. Because we believe there are a few changes that, if adjusted, could genuinely help the acquisition workforce and strengthen innovation in the government. But first, let me say this up front. We know and respect many of the incredible people who worked on the RFO. The pace, the scope, and the pressure, it was a huge job. So hats off to the team. This episode isn't criticism for the sake of criticism. It's about a partnership with the community and using the channels the RFO team opened to provide thoughtful and constructive feedback. We care about this mission. We care about this workforce, and our goal is always to shoot straight with you, even if that means saying things you won't hear in a DAU or FAI webinar. We've included a link for you to provide feedback to the RFO Council below, and we also included sample language you can just cut and paste if you want. Just make sure to get your feedback in by November 3rd. That's this Monday. And if you end up providing feedback, please let us know in a comment below. So buckle up. The jokes are still bad, the honesty is high, and this one's a little bit longer because the future of the FAR deserves it. So let's get into it.
His beard is very gray right now.
Yeah, we just went through a week of shooting new videos for the YouTube channel.
Why is your beard gray?
I'm a couple characters with we do a procurement in the wild where I'm an older guy with glasses and a white beard. I think I'm just slowly turning into Tim, our president of the ASI.
I think you've always wanted to be older than you really are.
Yeah, the dash of, what is it? The touch of white. It's kind of like the getting the silver back for the gorilla.
Yeah, I just have the one strip. Yeah. All right, today we're going to talk about the RFO, the Revolutionary FAR Overhaul. Actually, while we were filming our video today, we had to make some adjustments to our script. Amanda, who helps us out, was saying something. I was a little lost, but I heard you say, well, never mind FAR Part 13 because they should rename it Who Cares?
Yeah.
And we've done like a bunch of videos on Part 13, and it feels like it's like really important. And now,
Now, the good news. I just discovered something that can help. Contractivia.
From the innovative nutritional experts at ASI Labs comes Contractivia. Contractivia uses an ingredient called FAR Part 13.
So they didn't get rid of it.
They didn't get rid of it. They did some weird stuff when they transferred it over. I think we talk about that. But so Part 13 does now only apply for buying something under the simplified acquisition threshold.
SAT.
The SAT.
Okay.
Which they don't define in the RFO. I have yet to find the definition. I think they wiped the definition out.
What was the SAT in Part 13? Was it 2 million?
I think the SAT is 250,000.
Oh, okay.
So anything under 250,000, but where Part 13 turns into Who Cares is it's not commercial. So anything under SAT, non-commercial, you're still using Part 13. So it will be used because there are some, I guess, a lot of non-commercial things, some very government-specific things you'll use, but it'll be way less frequent. So Part 13 used to be the part of the FAR that you would try to use, and you're either using Part 13 simplified or
15.
Like if it's over SAT, and then, or you use it as an existing vehicle, which we can talk about later, but like Part 16, if you're using multiple award contracts, or 8, if you're using a supply schedule, but 13, you try to use a Part 13. And then that was like in people's, like a contracting officer's nomenclature that I always say like, oh, we're using a Part 13. This is going to be Part 13. It's going to be simplified. So that for commercial items, so there's two reasons why Part 13 is Who Cares, the Who Cares part. One is that all simplified orders for commercial items have been moved over to Part 12. And we can talk about what the consequences of that is for Part 12. Part 12 has now just become, there's now actually ordering processes in 12 that weren't there before.
Okay. We haven't talked about part 12 much, have we?
Yeah, we haven't really. I mean, we did a video where, one of the parts to know in the FAR, like the 5 parts of the FAR to know.
Yeah.
And when we mentioned that in the video, we said, you don't really use part 12. It's not really an ordering process. You use part 12 in conjunction with these other parts. Now, the biggest misunderstanding of part 12 is people think of it like it's a completely separate way of contracting. And they say, are you going to use part 12 or are you going to use part 13? But part 12 is not like part 13. You use part 12 like a seasoning, like in conjunction with part 13 or in conjunction with part 15. It's just commercial. So it's like you put on commercial glasses. So if you use part 12 in the olden days, in the days of the old FAR,
Like 3 months ago?
like 3 months ago, you're never using part 12. Like that's not going to get you like into processes where you use part 12 processes to like do your RFQ, get your you got to use something else even when you're going commercial. So you use part 12 and something else, like 12 and 13. What the RFO team did was they said, no, we're just going to go ahead and say, if it's simplified and it's commercial, we're taking all that stuff from 13 and we're moving it over. And they literally moved all that language from 13 to 12. And you'd think that you go back to 13 and it would still have all that same language because it's just simplified for non-commercial, but they don't. They just remove all the language. And there's some sentences that say, see part 12, to see how to order. So it's like, maybe a cheap way to kind of get rid of word counts to say you're reducing the word count of the RFO.
Is that the whole goal of the RFO is to just have less words?
Exact. No. But I mean, we can talk about that later, right? Because that's, that's.
We do. I'm still pretty confused on just.
So the two things. So one of the things that makes part 13, the who cares part, is all things commercial simplified now have all of their procedures in part 12. So part 12 has become more important now as just a place you go to find out, how am I going to get proposals? How am I going to do this? And they upped the threshold for commercial items, for simplified procedures for commercial items, to 9 million for part 12.
From 250,000?
Well, no, they had a commercial item exception in part 13, subpart 13.5 for all it where they didn't take the SAT is always 250,000, right? But if your commercial item was up to, I forgot if it was like 7 million or something, then you can use SAP, which is Simplified Acquisition Procedures.
Okay.
So you use SAP when you're under SAT.
Okay.
But you can also use SAP when you're under 7 million for commercial. That was in part 13. Now they put...
Oh, because SAT is services also, right?
Yeah.
Is that why? Okay.
SAT is just anything under 250,000. If what you're going to buy is going to fall under 250,000, your estimated contract value, you're under SAT, you can go simplified. And that used to all be under the realm of 13. So now they took all that, threw it into 12 for commercial, and then they upped the commercial threshold to 9 million. The SAT is still 250. The second thing that makes 13 kind of useless, and 12 for that matter, is still, and I hope they change this, it's still in public comment period, but this mandatory requirement to use existing what they call best-in-class vehicles, which...
I've heard several people that you've talked to about the RFO.
Yeah.
Like while I've been setting up mics or whatever.
Yeah.
Some experts we've talked to.
Yeah.
Just made fun of best in class.
Called BIC's best in crap.
Best in crap. So tell me, like, what does best in class mean? Like what?
Yeah.
I don't have any idea what that is.
Yeah. So best in class vehicles are existing vehicles that are created by, GSA is the big organization. They create these huge schedule contracts, federal supply schedules, all under Part 8. And they've always been around. Sometimes they were a good option. Many times they weren't. It was a tool in the tool belt. I would not necessarily ever say that any best in class were legitimately the best in class, but whatever. So the other kind of best in class vehicles that they say are not federal supply schedules under Part 8, with all the ordering procedures are under Part 8, or they used to be, but multiple award contracts. So contracts are different than schedules. A MAS is a multiple award schedule. A MAC is a multiple award contract. That's under Part 16, which has its own ordering procedures.
Okay.
So, and that was always there too. And there were a lot of times where ordering from an existing multiple award contract, there's a huge one called Oasis that is for professional services that GSA created. There's one for IT services and supplies called NASA Soup that NASA did. Soup. The ducks.
I love it.
Yeah. The ducks. And that's under, if you're using Soup, you're ordering under, well, they have their ordering guides too, but you order under Part 16.
Okay.
You're using any kind of existing IDIQ, BPA. Well, BPA is a little different. Yeah, blanket purchase agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
IDIQ is the indefinite delivery,
Yeah.
indefinite quantity.
There it is. IDIQ.
We're going to have to change the name of this to like
Acquisition for masters.
maybe not masters, but maybe acquisition for act for normies.
Normies. Act for Normies. Episode 11. Yeah, so actually BPAs, I misspoke. The ordering procedures for BPAs are different. There's different parts that you can do BPAs. But yeah, orders from IDIQs, requirements contracts, BOAs, that's Part 16. So so you have different ordering procedures in the FAR, right? And depending on how you're going to order it, whether you're doing it from a MAC or whether you're doing it, full and open, in the commercial marketplace, then that's going to dictate where you use the parts, right? And for that reason, Part 13 used to be one of the most used part because you would always go simplified. A lot of times you would choose not to use a federal supply schedule and not to use a multiple award contract because they were best in crap, But now there's this mandate that says you have to go out to an existing vehicle, which means that Part 8 and Part 16 have just become mandatory parts of the FAR, which also means that it's really going to be hard for any contracting officer not only to use Part 13, but Part 12. Part 12, the RFO team sort of like touted as, this is great, we just reorganized Part 12, look at Part 12, look how great it is. Well, they just completely canceled all that goodness out because they're requiring everyone to use Part 8 and Part 16. So it's going to be really hard for any contracting officer to go to not, there's this tool belt of all these different choices that the COs are supposed to have. Part 1 of the FAR, which is the guiding principles, the RFO team is trying to say that they've been given more discretion. Discretion's a big word, like flexibility. You now have the power as the CO. And they single-handedly cancel all that out by saying, oh, by the way, the only tool that you can use are these best-in-class vehicles. I have a huge problem with that. So Part 13 has become the who cares part, which is fine. We weren't using Part 13 well anyway. It's all been moved to 12, which is great. Okay, let's start using 12. But then there's that thing that's like, oh, wait, we can't even use 12 because we're supposed to be ordering from existing contracts.
All right. There's a couple of different directions we can go here. Let's start. Okay, so I want to go bigger picture, like about what the RFO actually is and what that means. So we have a new training platform, ASI Education Pro.
Bro, yeah.
We've been working on it for like over a year.
Yeah.
We have all these trainings.
Yep.
We just launched it.
Yeah. Based on our videos. So if you like our YouTube channel, then you can get CLPs for watching or taking trainings that are based on a lot of the fun videos that we do.
Exactly. You need to check it out.
Check it out.
However, we were excited to launch it, and all of a sudden we had to go back and change a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
because the RFO came out.
Yeah.
So is this our life now? Does the FAR Council, who is doing the overhaul,
And the RFO team. Yeah.
are they just going to be doing this for the foreseeable future? Is there like an end date?
Yeah.
Is there a spot where we can get to where we're like, okay, the RFO is done and we can start training people on like, okay, it's all done. This is what it means.
Yeah. I mean, so real quick on the pro channel, I'll just mention, I think because of the dynamic nature of where we are right now, we're focusing now a lot on probably on the YouTube channel, but also on just RFO training. And these acquisition for dummies sessions where we're just on a couch talking are a little more open. So we're going to be a lot more positive in our training because that's what it is. We're not going to just be, but yeah, I think to answer your question, I think you got to start now. If you're in the business of training, whether you're mandatory training like DAU and FAI, or you're third parties like us just trying to help the workforce, now is the time to start because right now there's just a state of confusion about the RFO. So, but just like to answer your question, so the RFO, the overhaul itself has not created any new laws and any new FAR, actually. If you go to acquisition.gov right now, and you try to, if you Google FAR Part 12 right now, you're going to get the old Part 12. So
what about FAR Part 13?
You're going to get the old Part 13. You're going to get the Part 13 in its former glory.
All right, yeah. And
it went from riches to rags. You're going to get the riches currently.
Okay.
But if you go to acquisition.gov, there's a little tab that says RFO. You click on the RFO, and then you're going to get all they call them deviations. So what the
deviants.
They're deviants. Yeah. What the executive order did, the Common Sense and Procurement Executive Order, it required an overhaul of the FAR to change the FAR, make it only statutory or necessary for, I think, sound procurement, And so, like you mentioned, the FAR Council has been in the business of doing that. Once what they did becomes law, which is not law yet, the FAR is supposed to sunset in 4 years. So all they've done right now, though, and I don't think this has been explained very well. All they've done right now, as they've rewritten all the parts of the FAR, changed things to plain language, taken stuff out, creating companion guides, is create what they call deviations. It's like interim. And the idea is that there's going to be a lot of feedback during this period where there maybe start changing some stuff. And then there's going to be a time when they take what's the RFO now and then they turn it into law. But the reason why we want to care about it right now is because they've also stuck a mandate in there that they didn't just call it interim suggestions or drafts. They called it deviation. So they're saying that, no, we're actually deviating from the FAR effective today. Like you read this, the idea is that the agencies right now are supposed to be doing not what the FAR says if you go to Acquisition Gov and the FAR as it stands, but they have to go to the RFO, look at the RFO, and they're supposed to be following what the deviations are saying. It's effective right now.
Can you get protested by using the FAR right now?
I mean, with some of the things that are in there, I would, as a company, I would protest. I would protest. There's some. I hate to be negative because this is turning into a negative podcast thing, but there are so many good things we can talk about that are in the RFO that I like. There are so many bad things, and then there's so many. We were gonna do one where we call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, the bad.
Are we doing that right now?
We can turn it into. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. The Jim Carrey clip from the '90s where he transforms his face into Clint Eastwood. It's like, and you think it's going to be one of those. Oh, he kind of looks like him. It looks like AI. He looks exactly like.
So
Clint
talented.
Eastwood. So in the spirit of Jim Carrey Eastwood, you want to do some good, the bad, and the ugly of the RFO?
A little bit. I want to hit on one thing real quick because there's one thing you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're done with the overhaul.
They had until.
But now there's a period of you said comments?
Yeah, they had until September 30th to rewrite all the parts of the FARs into deviations.
Okay.
And then they called upon agencies to make their own deviations according to those deviations, or explain why they weren't going to do certain things in the FAR Council's deviations. That's kind of happening right now. If you go to the RFO website and click on like Part 12, the RFO Part 12, it'll like open up a kind of a window where it'll show all of the agencies' sort of responses to the deviations. That was all due in September, on September 30th. They did it. So they have all of the rewritten parts of the FAR, but it's still in deviation form. And I don't think they've given, as of today, any guidance on when those deviations will turn into official law, which will have the full, the full force and effect of the law. But at the same time, they're telling everyone that the deviations need to be followed.
Okay. The other thing you mentioned, so they're done doing the overhaul. The other thing you mentioned was like it's open for comments right now. Like what?
Yeah.
Like who can?
Anybody can.
What are those comments? And
Yeah.
Like like if I make a comment, what does that mean? Like what should we do with the whole comments thing?
I hope they're looking at the feedback, but you can still, I think, provide feedback. I mean, I'm going to.
You're going to do it.
Yeah, there's a couple things in there that I'm just not crazy about.
Is it going to be even meaner than what you're saying right now?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd like to do, if anyone, I mean, I want to go on LinkedIn. If anyone agrees with what I'm saying, that you shouldn't be required to use federal supply schedules in Part 8 or Part 16, then I was going to just put sample language that anybody can just cut and paste and just say, use this. If you agree with me, just use this. I'll make it easy for you. Put the feedback in.
How about we put it down and
we can put it down below. Yeah, sure. We'll put it in the comments below.
Okay.
If you want, as a contracting officer, contract specialist, or as a company where you don't, because what this means also for companies is you're out of luck if you're not in a lot of the RFO is terrible for non-traditional companies.
Okay.
And I'll explain that in a minute. There's a couple new aspects to the RFO that make it terrible for new entrants into the government, which is completely counter to what the administration wanted, what the previous administration wanted too, which is to bring in new blood, bring in non-traditional new entrants to the marketplace.
Yeah, when you were talking about it, it made me feel like creativity and freedom is kind of gone. Like you just, for the sake of like consistency.
Yeah. And the ironic thing is which is what I actually like about the RFO, so much of the new RFO, the new revised parts, emphasize free thinking from the contracting officer, discretion, innovation. Mm-hmm. And they do a really great job. This is one thing I will say that is really great.
All right, let's start with the good.
You want to talk about the good? Okay.
The good.
Yeah. And then don't let me lose my thought on the why this is bad for non-traditionals. We'll get that on the bad.
Okay.
All right. So I love a lot of aspects of what the team did with the FAR and then what they're calling the companion guide. That's the advisory, that's the guidance. Okay. So they took a lot. I mean, I'll give one example. Actually, before I give the example, the guiding principles in Part 1 are really great. They say, actually, let me just hold on. I'll go to the guiding principles.
We're going to rely on some of Will's notes, it looks like.
I got
this stuff is so fresh.
Is the laptop in the frame?
I'm not sure if it is. There's a laptop right there.
There's a laptop. I'm going to look at my notes because I've gone through the RFO and I've got notes about it. We were going to call this, we've read the RFO so you don't have to.
Can you read the RFO?
Or if we read the revised FARs, you don't have to. But then we were like, well, we want you to read it. So, yeah, we don't want to discourage you from reading the new FAR. All right, we may have to cut this. Let me just go to the new.
All right, we're back. I'm hydrated.
Okay, and I've got the part.
Okay.
So if you're a new procurement professional in government, or you're an existing one, what I'd highly advise is that you look at the new RFO, the overhauled version of Part 1, and you go to 1.102, the guiding principles for the system, and you just print out paragraph A. Paragraph A is good. It's good.
You're going to read it to us?
I'll read it to you.
Let's hear it.
And just a little caveat, a little disclaimer. Most of the stuff in paragraph A, if not all of it, was already in the FAR. You'll see, and I did this when I looked through, there's nothing really revolutionary about the content itself. It was all there. The freedoms were all there. But the reason why I love this is they bubbled the important stuff up to the top.
All right.
And so they just clarified it in a much easier way. The guiding principles for the system is the federal acquisition system. Number one, the very first thing, was not in the original FAR. The very first thing is that the federal acquisition system will meet an agency's mission efficiently and effectively first. That's the priority. Mission. Yeah. What they've done with part one, I love, because so much of part one was a reflection of what the workforce ended up being, which was a workforce of fear of getting protested, fear of not following every public policy objective. So you had this balance. We actually talk about this in one of our videos where we use a scale where you're like satisfying the mission, satisfying the customer on the one hand, but then on the other hand, following all these rules, being a good steward of taxpayer dollars. Steward of taxpayer dollars also.
That's kind of part of the mission.
But it was translated into making sure you just get the lowest price. It turned to price. If you were not focused on price or you were paying more, you weren't being a good steward of taxpayer dollars. So it's like spending more money meant you're not spending the tax. You're not guarding that.
But really, the more important thing than price is value.
Exactly.
All right.
To be a good, and this is what the FAR overhaul really reflects in a much clearer, much more effective way than the original part one, is to be a steward of taxpayer dollars. You're not just getting low price. You're spending the money in a way that delivers to the mission, and then you're fulfilling these other. So the second principle is even better than the first, and it's actually new. I think this one's new. Ensure that the most effective use of taxpayer dollars is that it's bought in the cheapest way possible. No, I'm just kidding. The most effective use of tax.
You're going off script.
I know. I didn't do that very well. The most effective use of taxpayer dollars is in ways that recognize the value of time. So not just the value of money, value of time, encourage innovation, promote merit. That's a good one.
Merit.
Satisfy the customer and balance these interests and objectives. So there's a balance there. That balance, by the way, of satisfying the customer, innovation, value of time, just making sure the taxpayer dollars are spent in the most prudent way. That's a big responsibility. That balance is on the shoulders of the contracting officer. There's a lot of empowerment type language in part one. I love it. Mm-hmm. The promote merit. And by the way, I can talk a little bit about this. That's reflected in the new written parts too. We're still on the good of the RFO.
Still on the good.
So an example of promoting merit is they kind of redid the best value continuum in part 15. And part 15 had this continuum where there was lowest price technically acceptable and then trade-off. Well, lowest price technically acceptable is you're just going to say whatever works, we're going to get the lowest price. That was it has its place, right?
Sometimes that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't want to throw shade on any of the tools. Sometimes you need a flathead screwdriver or whatever. But they added a new method. And I need to figure out hold on a second.
I'm looking at his notes right now. It is amazing what a nerd you are that you've written all these notes.
Each part.
On every part.
Every part has a little bit of notes.
That's why I'm the dummy and you're the expert.
Or a nerd. They add two new approaches in part 15 to this best value continuum. The LPTA is still there, and I'm glad they didn't get rid of it. Sometimes you want to go so extreme when you change things. I'm glad they kept it. Mm-hmm. Trade-off is still there. They have something called highest technically rated with a fair and reasonable price.
I would say that first part sounds really expensive.
Yeah, with a fair and reasonable, but it's not the lowest. It's basically the opposite of LPTA. LPTA is we're going to go with the lowest price rated good enough.
Good enough.
The other one is we're going to go with the highest rated, priced, good enough.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right.
That is really on that. I think that's an indication of this idea of we really want contracting officers to think about technical superiority and merit, not is this the lowest price, not checking boxes for whatever reason, but we've got a mission to fulfill. And so we don't want to focus on anything else other than are these taxpayer dollars spent in a way that's contributing to the mission? And in a lot of times, maybe most times, the lowest price does not do the taxpayer any good. So, all right.
That makes sense. It's like, my wife and I were looking at cars, and you can buy, I don't think you can buy a Yugo anymore, but there's an equivalent of a Yugo, just that crappy car.
Yeah.
The Yugo slotted somewhere in the automotive lineup between a normal car and a bus pass. And you'll find a lot of people who will tell you that the bus pass was actually a better decision since it was cheaper, cleaner, and often more reliable.
And it was the lowest priced car.
Yeah.
And it was a car.
Yeah.
But living with it was horrible.
Right.
And by the same token, we don't want to buy a
Rolls Royce.
or something crazy that it'll get you there too, but what are you paying extra for? So we ended up with a Toyota.
Toyota. Chevy Trax.
I don't know about the Chevy Trax.
Yeah, Toyota. A Honda, like a Camry or an Accord.
Yeah, Honda.
Just something reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, the third thing, hold on, I want to make sure, satisfy the customer balance. Okay. Third principle. So the first principle, mission first. Awesome. Second principle, there's a lot of stuff there. Recognize that taxpayer stewardship is not so much about how much you spend, but what you're delivering. That's basically summing up principle 2. By the way, this is why you want to print this out, especially if you're a new employee. These are your guiding stars. You live by these principles. And if you're trying new stuff out, and you can argue that what your attempt was to live by these principles, you're not going to be breaking any laws or getting into trouble. Like as long as you can say, follow a path to that you were just trying to further these principles, you're good. That you are given this discretion. All right.
We should make an ASI inspirational poster.
Yeah.
Like the one with the cat hanging on
Oh yeah.
And it should have this. So people can get that poster and put it on there.
Yeah. And then underneath say subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So third. Nothing new. This is FASA 94, right? Remember we talked about FASA? You remember the FASA?
Federal.
Yeah.
Acquisition.
Yep. Streamlining.
Dang it. I was going to.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I jumped the gun. I'm sorry.
Streamlining Act.
Yeah, that's it.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So third is maximize buying commercial products or commercial services rather than requiring government unique solutions. There's a lot of this has always been in here, but maybe a little bit of rewording and clarification to just bring FASA home. We're kind of living in a FASA 2.0 right now. There's just a lot of focus on commercial, which is why part 13 is kind of like the who cares part. So much of what we buy today under 250,000 should be commercial. There's really no excuse. I can think of stuff off the top, even now, where that wouldn't maybe necessarily make sense. Some military stuff that's not sold in the commercial marketplace. Okay, yeah, you're using 13. I probably in my career, if what I was doing, would have still probably used 13 because there are some things. It's not a lot. 13 has really become kind of a back burner sort of part. And one of the reasons why is because this has been recognized as, again, this is the number 3 guiding principle. All right, number 4 is award contracts to contractors who demonstrate a superior ability to perform. That's that thing we were talking about, right? Yeah. Highest rated, price is still good. Price is reasonable. It's not lowest, but yeah, we can get to a reasonable price. Mm-hmm. All right. That, by the way, is brand new. Love it. That wasn't in the old FAR. Good job, RFO team. This is great. Promote competition and fair opportunity. Duh, right? But I think this is good that this is in here. The RFO is not saying we're changing a whole bunch of stuff, but we're still recognizing that true taxpayer value, true success to mission is not just awarding directly to a company, no matter how big tech company, no matter how Silicon Valley, esque the company is. Compete it, man. Like, just compete it still.
Yeah, competition is the ultimate way to get the best value.
Yeah. And not to name any names, we kind of did it. This is what the Apata video is on.
What is this hitting me on Sand Doctor? Yeah, I can read between the lines.
But there are going to be companies that are coming out now that don't represent the old establishment, that are good for our country, that are new tech, that aren't the old Beltway companies, they aren't the old Last Supper companies, that will absolutely be pushing for sole source awards. And contracting officers have to rise above their narrative and know that just awarding to, even though those big tech companies or military companies are great, you keep awarding to them, you don't have competition, it's going to be bad. You always want to maintain competition.
I think you can't fault these companies. Like they have a mission. Their mission is to make as much money as they can.
Right.
And so it's part of what I love about capitalism is that there's not hidden motives.
Yeah.
Like we are trying to make money.
Yeah.
And so you just know what their motives are and then you can react to that appropriately.
Yeah.
And so I totally get why they would try to get as much business from the government as they possibly can.
Right.
And it's your job as the contracting officer or whatever job you have to push back of that and kind of create the competition, kind of create that, like make sure you're getting the value that you need.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's your job as a contracting professional, not their job. If they did say, well, hold on a second, I don't want to win. Let's have these other companies. Then there's a problem, right? Because then we're not like you said, we're not in a capitalist society. We don't want that. That goes against the idea of every company competing for merit and really just being the winner. So you're right. So those companies are just going to do what those companies need to do, which is try to win. It's up to the contracting officer to be the level-headed, like, we just need to make sure the competition is there. There are some pretty shady stuff, though, that companies continue to just cross the line, where they're going straight into bypassing and doing but other than that, but this is why it's so important that competition, which is kind of like a duh thing, is in the guiding principles of the RFO, because there's going to be a lot.
Are you making bird noises over there? Ben's working hard on some stuff.
Yeah.
And
there's going to be a lot. There's supposed to be a lot of discretion that the CEO has now. And so there should be discretion for the CEO to compete to the maximum extent practicable, but still sort of like do what makes sense, right? And with that flexibility that CEOs have, especially when we're talking about OTs, outside the FAR, you need to be reminded more like you need to do what's best for the country, which is maintain this competitive environment. So anyway, that's competition. That's great. That's there. All right. Conduct business with integrity, fairness, and openness. That has always been there, but that's reflected in new ways in the revised, the overhaul FAR. Okay. One of the best ways, and again, this is part of the good, is again in part 15. They did a lot of good stuff to 15. Part 15.
Good.
Part 15 got weird over the years, I guess.
That's for like open competition.
Part 15 is contracting by negotiation.
Yeah.
Over $250,000 over the SAT.
Okay.
If you're contracting by negotiation a requirement that's commercial, then it would be over 9 million or whatever. But yeah, it's for the big stuff. Big stuff, yeah. And when you're doing the big stuff, you go into part 15. We talked about this already too, though. Like even if you're not using part 15 just started over time, just started collecting all this
detritus.
Yeah. So I was thinking like 15's kind of turned into some of that goodness, some of the layers. And that's actually just a foreshadow of some of the bad stuff. a lot of that stuff that got removed was some of the fat drippings that have been built, that actually built the system that we have that are good. And so you just kind of like, you're taking some of that away. Anyway.
It's like a cast iron skillet that just built up layer. And
Yeah,
layer
built up layer. And then you just clean the skillet. Well, you're not supposed to do that.
Supposed to.
But part 15, in the spirit of fairness and openness, 15 was restructured and rewritten in a way to bring the contracting officer into a mindset of industry engagement and back and forth negotiation.
Okay.
Like, hey, guys, when it says negotiation, that's what you're doing. You're not checking the list and making sure you have adjectival ratings, or like, okay, first we do this discussion, but then, is this a clarification or a discussion? So when I'm talking to somebody, this is formally called a clarification if I ask them this. But if I ask them this after the solicitation, it's this. And it's like it turned into this whole legal exercise. And you never really talked to the companies. You never actually had that deal-making negotiation that businesses do in the real world. Because you're just following these weird formalized rules. Hats off to the RFO team. They renamed a lot of the terms to kind of drive their point. Okay. So instead of discussions, that word's out, they call it negotiations. The part of the FAR is called negotiations. And all of these, and you can do clarifications where you're just talking to any offer at any time. It doesn't have to be after a certain period or after the competitive range. Just call them and say, what did you mean by this? Like, can you? So it's supposed to start opening up a dialogue that hopefully is, does not involve fear of doing something wrong or a protest. That you can just, without fear and with confidence, talk to these guys. But it does say fairness too. So you want to be fair, but don't be like so worried about being fair that you're just not talking to anyone. That's not. So anyway, so they did that. And that was great. And it really, the idea is that it's focusing the contracting officer on having conversations throughout the process. And so 15 is kind of, again, it's another thing, a good thing I think the RFO team is a lot of their parts, they are aligning with these principles that they did in 1.102. There's no vision, by the way. The FAR used to have a vision. And we talk about that in our videos. Mm-hmm. Vision's gone. The most important thing now are these guiding principles.
Okay.
All right. The last one is one that was in the FAR, but again, it was kind of tucked somewhere away and it wasn't really, they bubbled it up to the top, and that is delegate the authority to make decisions and accountability to the lowest level in the system.
I like that.
It's awesome.
We need some of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So don't micromanage.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Everybody needs some of that. It's so easy to micromanage.
Yeah. I mean, if the FAR always gave the contracting officer power, but it was never de facto power. It was like de novo power in law. It says you had power. The way it played out was never that way. Okay. It actually said this. They didn't make this word up. This I'll give the site again. 1.102A7 is word language from the old FAR. It was never followed. The CO never really had authority. They're the only ones with the warrant. But they always had these. We've done videos on this.
American Deals.
American Deals was about that. Yeah, our series. Another case in point in part 1 that I love is when you actually get to the authority of the contracting officer. I'm going to scroll down here. Let's see here. We can cut this out. Let's see. All right. The contracting officer revised is in subpart 1.4 now. In 1.402-1, it talks about the CO's authority. Yeah. The first one just says only the contracting officer may sign contracts. That was always there. It was in the original FAR. It's in this one. Mm-hmm. All right. That's paragraph A. Paragraph B is what's changed. Ooh. In the original FAR, paragraph B, it said, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it said contracting officer must make sure that they comply with all the laws. It was it was a scary paragraph.
All the
Yeah, it's like
laws.
scaring the CO into complete non-transparency, non-openness,
Yeah.
consequentially non-fair. Like they're just like they've turned into these incredibly fear-ridden protest, risk.
Shell-shocked.
Yeah, shell-shocked, can't do anything, button down the hatch
Yeah.
so I don't get in trouble. They took all that language out. The new paragraph B just says contracting officers have wide latitude to exercise business judgment. That's it. That's the replacement.
That's very different.
That is a reflection kind of what the RFO Part 1 has done. And this is actually just kind of like a running theme of the RFO to begin with, is there's really been no change to the contracting officer's power, but a really good aspect. So you can say maybe it's not revolutionary, probably not revolutionary with a capital R, but one lowercase capital or lowercase revolutionary aspect of the whole overhaul is that they've just brought these points out in a much clearer way. And I think that's going to have impact. I'm really happy about that.
That's awesome. I'm glad we started with the good because, we're 40 minutes into this video. That's a lot of good.
Yeah, we can make this a longer video. I've got more good, or we can do a part 2. What do you want to do?
It's kind of fun to complain.
You want to get into the bad?
Let's talk about the bad.
Okay, let's get into the bad. I'll actually. How about I get into the bad by segueing with a good that we haven't talked about yet,
Okay.
but then kind of segue that into a bad part.
Okay.
Another good thing I think they did is they did what they could to make the FAR readable. So they used kind of plain language. And this goes
This is your carpet.
yeah, right. Video coming soon. Should we talk about? We have a video coming up called the RFO Apocalypse.
In plain language, kind of like this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've just started our descent into Chicago.
But yeah, but that is a good thing that I think they did. They tried to rewrite a lot of stuff in plain language. I've read some of the rewritten stuff. What I've had to do with some parts is read the old part next to the new part to kind of see what the changes are.
It's kind of like the Message Bible.
Yeah, it's like they turned the King James Bible into, and then they wrote like a message or a New Living Translation or a message, version. Where it's like it's a little easier to read.
Yeah,
the these and thous have been taken away.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's good. Here's where this kind of segues.
However,
yeah. And actually, if we're going to do the good, the bad, I was going to make this one of the ugly things about it because it's not necessarily bad. It just doesn't look great, which is ugly.
Okay.
So much. We kind of talked about this earlier. If you're going to overhaul the FAR by taking stuff away, I believe that the spirit, I don't believe, I know that the spirit of that executive order is that you're taking away administrative burden.
Administrative burden.
You're taking away
That overhead.
you're taking away the processes and extra restrictions that the contracting officer had. A really ugly aspect about the RFO is a lot of the stuff that's good in the RFO was already there. They just made it more clear. The words that they actually took away were not administrative burden words. They were actually words that clarified things. So they actually took some helpful language out, like definitions. Okay. So, and then what's even really ugly about this is they actually put restrictions into the FAR that didn't exist.
No way.
So if they keep things the way the RFO is with what's in there, I would personally consider this to be a huge failed effort in overhauling the FAR.
Oh wow!
They've got so many good things. We didn't even talk about all the good things. We can do that in another part. I'm in full support of a lot of great stuff they did, but because of the bad, if those bad things stay, it's a failed experiment. So that's the thing. Like the plain language is great, but when you start taking your machete and taking whole parts of the FAR out that were helpful, it's just like, are you helping? Are you now putting the CO into a scavenger hunt? I mean, the biggest example of that.
I was just going to say, do you have an example?
I got a lot of examples right there.
Yeah.
I can't go through all of them.
Copy and paste it.
Subscribe to our channel if you want all of them. We'll probably go through all of them. Yeah. All right. So the biggest example is part 2. Let's talk about it. Can we talk about a couple other bad things?
No.
Okay.
Yes. It's like
So
you get 2 more bad things.
2 more bad things. Yeah. I mean, so one, actually, let's say one good thing was that they took a lot of rigid things that people like ended up being like this paperwork exercise where contracting officers were so focused on that they lost sight of the mission. The RFO team took that out, and they it's still good information, but they stuck it under what they call guidance under companion guides. And one great example is in part 4, the boring part of the FAR. They took away all the stuff that needs.
That's the only boring part.
Yeah, the only boring part. Yeah. Actually, I guess we're repeating a lot of stuff that's in our apocalypse video because it's fresh on the mind.
That's fine. It's a different format.
Yeah,
So
it's a hot take, or it's a different way of saying it. They took those out as suggestions, and so really, the purpose of that is to help bring the contracting officer into the proper mindset, even about a contract file. A contract file is not supposed to be spending all your time creating this meticulous file and just be ready for that PMR review where you're spending all your time. My first boss as a Department of Defense contracting officer, my first boss told me that the way you can tell you're a good CO is how meticulous your contract file is. She literally said that. I always remember. It's funny because...
Were you good at that?
No. No, I wasn't. But I was a good CO.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that's what I always remembered that. Like, are you serious? Like, but I knew though, and I'm not saying I was, me not keeping perfect files also early on got me into trouble, and I had to realize how to document better. Documentation is incredibly important, but it's why are you documenting? It goes back to that mission. You're not documenting to pass a PMR, which is a procurement management review. These people come in and they audit your files. Okay. It's really annoying.
That sounds like a fun job.
Oh, it's terrible. And then when a contract office goes through a PMR, and that this happens, sometimes it's annual, the whole office turns into, forget the mission, forget what you're doing, like what you're focused on just passing that PMR. That's where you start fudging the numbers a little bit, start putting stuff, you're prettying up your files. Like, it was always like that. No, we always had a J&A in there. And you try to like kind of make the date a little. Anyway, the whole purpose of a good contracting file is so you can tell your story of how this thing was delivered and provided value to your mission. You have that story. If something goes wrong in the contract, a well-organized, well-documented contracting file is a companion to a good CO. They can pull that file, open it up, and then figure out what they need to pull so they can solve that problem. That's the purpose of documentation. It's all about mission. The RFO got it right. The team got it right. They really brought part 4, or at least that part of part 4, into that mission aspect. Take all these dumb things about, well, you need to have this tab, put that into guidance about, here's a great way to make organize your file. Really focus file maintenance on what it needs to be focused on, telling your story, and then post-award efficiency.
All right. That file, is that just, like if I'm a CEO, I make the file, is it just for me pretty much?
It's for you. It should be for you. But it's also for anybody that comes after you who's trying to figure out what in the world happened with this. Because, no contracting officer stays with their contract the whole time. And as a CO, you inherit, if you're watching this, you inherit a lot of contracts that you never awarded. And you're like, what in the world? If you're a good CO, you won't be too much of a Monday morning quarterback, though. There's always those COs like, I would have done things different. And then they're writing bad contracts too. Usually good, prudent COs are like, this one's a mess. I feel for that CO. There's probably some, And then you're just like, all right, well, let's try to clean this up. And you're not judging that PCO. But yeah. So the other ugly aspect of this is if you're going to brag about how much you've decreased the word count of the parts of the FAR, you better back that up by having that correlate to some kind of administrative burden. Okay. And I'm not sure if the RFO team can say with confidence that a lot of the stuff they macheted is accompanied with actual meaningful change that decreases any sort of burden that wasn't there before the RFO. A lot of the stuff they're just they're just maybe even for the first time bringing up officially in writing freedoms that the contracting officer already had, which is why it's such a travesty that they're doing all this great stuff, having such this great language, and then they're adding restrictions that never existed in the FAR, like requiring people to go to best-in-class vehicles. Actually, another funny thing is, I'll give you two more. Can I give you two more bad things?
Yes.
Okay. How many? This is a long one, isn't it?
This is a long video.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll split it, but
All right. Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. This will be.
I mean, it's just us talking. So, like,
This is one of those maybe you can fall asleep to. You can fall asleep
yeah, it's
to.
a sleepy time video.
It's a sleepy time video.
We'll put some cool pictures.
Can we end
or
this?
just put it on when you have a long drive, or
Yeah. Can we end this video with some sleepy time music?
sleepy time. Yeah.
We can get really low like this.
Yes.
Welcome to the RFO. All right, two more bad things. Hopefully we said I just want to say there are some good.
You said like 4 or 5 good
Okay,
things.
good. All right, then let's be negative again. It's more fun.
It's definitely easier to complain.
Oh yeah, it's so much easier to complain.
Yeah.
All right, two more bad things. One bad thing is this is a little bad thing, but it's just kind of one of those things. I hope it's an oversight. Part 13. You know when they transferred everything, I mentioned they transferred it from part
That's how we
13
started, right?
over to 12.
Yeah.
You know, during any sort of move, when you're packing up boxes and you're moving from one house to the other, something gets lost. There's always something. You're like, where was that thing? Like, okay, that one of those things that got lost that was pretty nice back in the part 13 house was they never required you to submit to at least 3 companies. They suggested it. They said it's good practice. They never made that a requirement. And that was always something that was like a big sticking point with people who thought 13 required at least 3 sources. They never did. They never did. When they transferred it over in part 12, they do in part 12, you have to get 3 sources, which is a little crazy because if you even get to the point in part 12 where you can say, I can't use best-in-class vehicles. To even get to part 12, you are unable to use best-in-class vehicles and like federal supply schedules, right?
Yeah.
And that's like
There's not much left.
There's a lot of there's not much left. So you're going out probably to these new non-traditional companies who are not able to get into best-in-class vehicles, maybe, or they're and there may not be many of those. So to add this extra restriction is like, by the way, you need to at least go to 3. Why? Why do you have to go to 3? Just compete. Just say compete to the maximum extent practicable. That's all you have to say, RFO team. Give the discretion to the CO. Have you seen that video of that lady who's freaking out and she gets a sudden thing of self-awareness?
Are you kidding? That's unfair. She made those. I need to calm down. Everything's fine.
Amanda.
I'm an adult.
That was me a little bit on that.
Yeah.
The other, I mentioned earlier, I do want to. Yeah.
I'll stop you.
Yeah.
You are a uniquely passionate person.
Yeah.
And, on this subject, not passionate in general, maybe. But it would be ludicrous for them not to listen to someone like you who has. Again, I'm looking at your notes here. Like it is crazy to me that we're busy.
Yeah.
We have so many things going on with our channel, with our new pro that we're doing. Like I think you do this on your free time. Like you have unique passion for this, this group of people. So you should listen to them.
Well, it's an exciting thing to overhaul the FAR. I loved, as someone who, like many of us in the profession who spent their whole career reading this, and now like we teach on this, to say that the very thing that we teach on and that I learn on is going to be completely overhauled and changed is actually, I was very excited about, because this is not a perfect document. So yeah, I mean, it's easy for me to pick at the things that, it's like, J.J. Abrams said, he was scared to death about making a new Star Wars film because Star Wars fans are brutal and merciless. So there's a little bit of that, but yeah. Part of the reason also why I don't like it seems like such a little thing. Like, why are you making such a big deal, Will? Just go to 3. Just go to 3 vendor. Because a lot of times I've been in a situation where there's not 3. And then you have that policy person who's holding on to that number 3. And so yet again, RFO, if you're the team, if you're listening, probably not, but they are creating unnecessary restrictions by putting 3 offers on there. The executive order, Common Sense and Procurement, referred to those as self-inflicted inefficiencies. And so that 3 vendor rule that you created, which is not in statute, RFO team, is an example of a self-inflicted inefficiency that you introduced in the overhaul. It's kind of the reverse of what you're supposed to be doing. The other thing, and I'll mention, I mentioned one thing real quick. We got to talk about this. I'm sorry, about how this is bad for non-traditionals, right? Yes. It's bad for non-traditionals. All right. There are 2 big things that are really bad for non-traditionals. One is the requirement, which again, I keep on complaining about this, but the mandatory requirement to use best-in-class vehicles. GSA has a very warped definition of category management, and it's a very bad definition of category. The Air Force has a very great definition of category management to the Air Force. What
is category management?
Category management is you're supposed to be, for easier buying or more efficient buying, you kind of put all the lessons learned into different categories, like cloud computing. You start developing patterns of cloud computing, really just so you're not like, recreating the wheel every time you do. So there are lessons, and you build on those lessons learned. The Air Force version of that is trying to come up with some pricing models and some ways that a CO can engage. And if they're going to be doing cloud computing or they're going to be doing landscaping, they're kind of doing some like processes or entering a body of knowledge. They're standing on the shoulders of giants. People have done this before. The GSA version of category management is if you're using cloud, if you're buying cloud, use this vehicle. Don't put thought into it. Don't research. Just do an order from this vehicle. That
sounds easier.
Yeah. But if the vehicle's not as great as what a prudent contracting officer would do, then they're pigeonholed into doing the mediocre best in crap vehicle. So
is one of the new principles to do the easy thing?
No.
Okay.
It's not. That's a good point. Yeah. One of the guiding principles is not to choose the easy button.
Yeah.
It's to do the hard thing, which is do what's best for the taxpayer and your customer and your mission. And in my humble opinion, many times that means you don't order from an existing best-in-class vehicle created by GSA. And also a reason why that's terrible is it's really bad for non-traditional new entrants coming into the market. Like imagine just, going out to Mountain View, California, talking to a tech company who wants to work with the government. The very first thing you're going to have to say is, "Oh, okay, are you part of a federal supply schedule?" What's that?
What is that?
Okay, never mind. I didn't think you'd know that. That's all right. Are you part of Oasis? What's that? Shoot. Are you part of NASA Soup? No. You're out of luck. I can help you with the on-ramp thing, but for me to actually award to you, I'm going to have to create a bunch of paperwork for not choosing the mandatory source of BIC. That new entrant's out of luck. So now all new entrants to the marketplace are going to have to take an additional step. Already they don't want to work at the government.
Yeah.
They can't now just walk up, talk to the government and get a contract or just be a part of a quick competition for a contract, of course. They're going to have to go through this administrative burden. Now, what they can do, which is what they're going to have to do, is bypass the FAR and get an OT.
OTs.
Yes. Yep. But the RFO is supposed to be like as good as OTs, in my opinion, and it's not. The other thing that is bad for small business, new entrants, is this is just a minor rule in Part 19, but it's huge. And it's especially really bad for Alaskan natives, Hawaiian natives, and tribal companies, and any 8A. You can't directly go to an 8A company anymore.
Really?
No. There's a requirement that, let me find it actually. It's in 19, if you want to fact check me on this if you're still watching. If you're still watching, by the way, thank you.
You're awesome.
You guys are awesome for getting this far.
Yeah.
Maybe you're asleep and you're listening to us in your dreams.
Yeah.
All right. So 19.108-7 says, when an acquisition is below the competitive threshold, the competitive threshold was back in the olden days. If you were under a competitive threshold, you can go directly to an 8A company. Sometimes that was 4.5 million. And the Department of Defense for like Alaskan Natives, it's like 100 million.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money. But you can't do that anymore, maybe, because of what this new rule is in 19.108-7. The contracting officers must, imperative. I thought we were taking imperatives away.
Should.
Apparently we're creating imperatives.
Not should.
Yeah. Not should. Must first try conducting the acquisition as a competitive 8A order. And to add insult to injury, using a best-in-class vehicle. Which, of course, A and C's probably aren't on, like Alaskan 8, like, no, I know, like, or definitely not new 8As. Like 8A, the whole point of 8A is like they're new to the government. Yeah. They're in a, maybe representing a socially disadvantaged segment of the workforce. Either way, there's some kind of disadvantage or some kind of thing that we want to do. We talked about when we did we interviewed that Navajo company.
Yeah, which we haven't put out yet, but
we haven't put out. We'll put out hopefully soon. It's a great video.
We're just waiting for BIA to get back to us. You guys should get back
by the
to
way,
us.
yeah, we were going to release the video and just say when we asked BIA declined to comment when we wanted them to be part of this. Anyway, it's a great story. They talk about how the Navajo reservation, which is where it's in Arizona, Colorado,
Four Corners. Yeah,
Four Corners. All right. The size of the territory, the size of Rhode Island, one bank, right? Like
one bank.
The conditions of and the disadvantages, legitimate disadvantages of growing up Navajo on a reservation to actually muster up a company to work with the government, which there's an incredible heritage of Navajos in particular working in wartime with the department against the Nazis, right?
Yeah.
Huge heritage.
Huge heritage.
Now we're saying in the RFO
that money, his story about how that money changed the lives of so many people.
Changed lives. The company that we talked to gives, I feel like it was almost half of the money back to the Navajo tribe.
I feel like it was, yeah.
And that was part of the great thing about that video is like when you can get, it's up to $100 million for defense. So you can award up to $100 million to a Beltway company for whatever, or, and help their profit and helping like these tech companies' profits. It's good for our economy. So it helps helping with the stock. That's great. But if you award to that Navajo tribe, your decision to do that goes to that Navajo territory, the size of Rhode Island with one bank. That is
that's a lot of money in one bank.
That's true. I have to get another bank. Size of Rhode Island, two banks.
Two banks.
So
yeah.
That incredible story potentially is threatened by this. Why would they add this rule? There's no reason why they would add this rule. I think the only reason I can think of goes to the guiding principle of awarding for merit, saying, hey, no more direct awards to 8As anymore. We're going to compete. They got to earn it. Yeah. But, it's just the problem with that philosophy is you're making them go to a best-in-class vehicle, which is a club that many companies, especially 8As and Indian-owned businesses, are not a member of that club. So they're out of luck.
And we've already we've already seen that it's clear that best-in-class does not have merit either.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
or not necessarily have a merit.
You got to change that RFO team. That's a bad rule. And that is, there's no statutory basis behind it. There's no executive order behind it. The President Trump is not asking you to do this, OMB. Change it. You're going to screw over a lot of Indian-owned businesses, guys. Anyway, this is probably too aggressive. This is an aggressive podcast.
Oof. Should we end it with some calm music and some ASMR?
This is supposed to be this podcast they go to sleep to, right? I'm like yelling at the OMB while they're trying to sleep.
You're going to have angry dreams tonight.
Angry dreams. I had a Red Bull before this. That's what made me angry.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's late on our last night of a very long week of
Yeah.
shooting. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, the bottom line for the RFO, if they do some tweaks and changes, which I hope they will, because it's not a rule yet, this is a really cool move, I think. So much stuff that we've been teaching on, especially with the guiding principles, is in there now a lot clearer. The practitioner guides are great. You can tell there's really good practitioners that are part of that RFO team. They're coming up with new ways of pricing cloud services. Part 16 of the FAR, where you pick the contract type, they threw in, you can make up a type. That was brand new.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's one of the good things.
That's really cool, yeah.
It's cool. I mean, there's so many cool things about it. Don't let all the good stuff that you did, RFO, be ruined by some of these really big, bad things, really ugly things. Anyway, though, if you're part of the workforce, check out our pro. It's our membership for the channel. So, but we have a lot of trainings, or just keep watching our channel. We'll keep you up to date on the RFO. You got to get smart on the RFO, though. You're not being trained on it adequately right now. We got your back.
Yeah, we got this.
Can I mention something too? If you made it this far, then I think you like our channel. Tell your colleagues about our channel. We want to keep doing this. We love doing this, kind of offering this free stuff, but numbers help and subscribers help. We don't say that often, but it helps. It helps to get the subscribers. It helps us know we're on the right track and that we should keep doing this. And one of the things that you can help to keep this going is telling your colleagues about it, because not everyone in the workforce watches YouTube.
This is true. Yeah. All right. Thanks. We'll put a little calm music on.
Sleepy time. Good night, everyone.
Hopefully you have YouTube Premium and this video is not going to end with a loud commercial.
Till next time.
Till next time.